Welcome to Radio Check, the show that brings you headline news and the opinion of someone who watches probably way too many sports for fun. But today is a very special occasion, as today is episode number 1 of Radio Check, and I am very excited to start this new show with you guys. And if you guys are going to be interested in this, be sure to hit subscribe and hit the like button on YouTube. Or if you guys are on Spotify or wherever you guys get your podcasts, go ahead and follow there. But if you guys are new to this, which you guys probably are because this is episode 1, this is a brand new sports YouTube podcast / show. And I have been looking to do this for over 2 years. And you can ask my parents. I've said this before to them, that I've had this conversation with them. I've talked to friends as well, that this has been something that I've been interested in doing. And I am very passionate about sports, and the 3 sports here on Radio Check that I mainly look at: the NFL, Indycar, and Formula 1. Those are my 3 main sports that I watch and take part in. I've watched them pretty much all my life. Formula 1's the newest, but I've always been familiar with it. And we'll include other sports as well. I am a sport, I don't know how you would say it, but I just love all sports in general. And we're going to include going over headlines and go through what someone looking at these with an opinion of someone who's watched sports for a long time and see what we talk about. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the first few headlines. And first, we'll start off in my favorite neck of the woods, the NFL. And if you guys are staying with the NFL, preseason is starting here soon. And I'm very excited that football is finally back. And I'm curious to see what preseason will look like. As I've gotten more into sports, I think the preseason has actually gotten more interesting because of the headlines that have been coming out of it. And I think in a couple of these headline announcements that you guys may be intrigued just as much as I am. And we'll go to the first headline, as Kyler Murray is announced to be the Vikings starting quarterback. And that really begs the question of what is going to be next for JJ McCarthy. That if you guys have been sticking with the Vikings and the whole quarterback situation, it's kind of been I don't want to call it soap opera because it hasn't been that dramatic, but it's been a lot of twists and turns when it comes to it. That originally they've been going through different quarterbacks such as Case Keenum, Kirk Cousins. Finally, they trusted the reins to Sam Darnold, took them to a 14-3 record, made the playoffs, got beaten by the Rams, and then at the end of that season, the Vikings let Sam Darnold walk. They did not sign Sam Darnold. And then I think we know the history behind that. Sam Darnold then moves to the Seahawks, and then JJ McCarthy gets the starting job. And the Vikings don't do well that next year, and Sam Darnold with the Seahawks goes on to win the Super Bowl. As a Seattle fan, thank you very much, Vikings. We appreciate that. But in all seriousness, now that Kyler Murray is not on the Cardinals, and now he is the Vikings starter, what does that mean for JJ McCarthy? JJ McCarthy was meant to be the next big thing for the Vikings, the next big young star. And I would even admit that coming out of college and JJ McCarthy had won that national championship with Michigan, out of all the quarterbacks that were there, I thought JJ McCarthy, and I believe that at the time it was also Bo Nix, that I believe that they were the 2 quarterbacks that probably looked the most ready for the NFL. And I know, and that's not to take away from the other young quarterbacks such as Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, and Drake May as well. I think that they were all ready for the NFL, and obviously they are all doing really well. But I thought at the time that JJ McCarthy seemed to have the most kind of NFL habits, that you could see the NFL in his game even in college. And I'm not the only one that said that. You could go on to ESPN, and at the time when he was drafted, there were people saying sort of the exact same opinion. So I'm curious now to see where the Vikings are going to go from here, because with Kyler Murray being named the starter, does that mean again, it is preseason, so is Kyler Murray just going to be the starter for preseason? And then maybe JJ McCarthy is named the true starter, or not entirely sure. I mean, it's kind of an open book. You can see that what the teams are going to choose, but it's just very intriguing situation. And I don't think that this is going to be really good for the Vikings, because you put everything into JJ McCarthy, that you dropped the quarterback that took you to a 14-3 record. You arguably had a Super Bowl ready roster. And I say arguably because when Sam Darnold was the quarterback, there really was an argument. There was a reason they made the playoffs, but there really was an argument that if things fell in the certain way, they could have gone to the Super Bowl. There was definitely a world where that could have happened. But then you drop Sam Darnold, you bring in JJ McCarthy, you give him the reins, and then the first year doesn't go well for him. And now all of a sudden, in his third year, Kyler Murray comes in and immediately is named the starter. So I can imagine that JJ McCarthy is going to continue to try, because, I mean, with some of these other teams that may not be fighting for a playoff spot, I can imagine that they are going to be fighting for starting positions. And we'll have to see how this season goes, because if Kyler Murray performs well, if he performs well enough, he's going to keep that starting job. There's a reason that when he was a starter and healthy, that he was still a starter with the Cardinals. Now, the fall off from that could be a whole different topic. But again, I'm still very curious to see how this is going to look as the preseason and the season will go on. And I think what is next for JJ McCarthy? He is going to have to train and play very, very well if he wants to try and get back into that starting position. And he's going to have to hope that Kyler Murray doesn't perform well. And if JJ McCarthy gets that second shot, he cannot waste it, because realistically, that could be his last opportunity. But now, again, sort of in the same ballpark, which I guess talking about football doesn't really help that well. But talking about quarterback jobs, this is kind of intriguing, which I guess you got to give them news when it happens. And the reason why I chose this is because it is a little bit intriguing. Deshaun Watson has been named the opening starter for the Browns. And I say opening starter for the preseason, which again, usually for the first quarter of the first preseason game, they play all starters. Maybe not every starter. I don't want to say that as an absolute, but most of the time teams play their starters. So Deshaun Watson being named as the opening starter, just the one simple question, and I think that's the one simple question that I've seen being circulated, is this the wrong choice to be starting Deshaun Watson over Shedeur Sanders? And I do think that there is a little bit of debate to this, that given who the Browns are, that they don't have that great of a roster, and they are still, and now this year as well, they're going to have a new head coach, their first year out of Kevin Stefanski's reigns. It's going to be a little bit of a question to see what this new team is going to look like as they continue to try and improve. And especially now that they don't have Myles Garrett, that now they have Jared Verse, and I think that they are still trying to build up their roster. In my opinion, I do think that this is the wrong choice. That nothing really against the Deshaun Watson or Shedeur Sanders, between the two of them. I think that they should just go with Shedeur Sanders. He's the younger quarterback. Deshaun Watson is not getting any younger, and in back-to-back years, he had season-ending injuries. And I just think it's not a great move to kind of put your faith into a quarterback who has let you down multiple times. That I think, in my opinion, I think the Browns should just go ahead and go with Shedeur. I think that they should just go ahead, let it happen. And if Shedeur doesn't play well, then Shedeur doesn't play well. And you can put Deshaun Watson in to replace him. But I do think that it would look better for the Browns if they started Shedeur and then brought Watson in, rather than having Watson in and then putting Shedeur in. Because I don't know if this is what they're thinking, but it could send the message that they're not all that confident in Shedeur, which I don't know. He has some shaky moments in his rookie season, but at the same time, it's the rookie season. And I really think that the only way that you can get better is practice. And I think that some of the great quarterbacks do perform very well in their first year. But if there's a second year slump, or if someone performs well in the second year, you can use that as either a learning opportunity or a springboard to get better. And I think that it would be the better choice to put Shedeur in, let him get the experience even more, and then go from there rather than kind of bailing ship on him already. And now for the final announcement, which actually I believe just came out a couple hours before recording this. The Bears do give the announcement, as I want to make sure that it was correct. And there we go. We'll go ahead and bring up the information. So the Bears announcement is that they are finalizing the move to Indiana, as they have not been able to remain in Chicago. But the announcement that just came out, as well as I am reading this, and I will be sure to include this in all the sources from my information, that per ESPN, they said that the chairman of the Bears said that they are looking at Hammond, Indiana, as being the city where they plan on going to if things continue as they are. At the same time, they actually did make an announcement, and they said, quote, "No, we will be the Chicago Bears whether we're in Arlington or whether we're in Hammond," end quote. And then he went on to say after that, quote, "Our focus is on Hammond. That's where we're advancing our efforts, and that is where the bulk of our time, attention, and resources are being devoted." So right there, you hear it from the chairman. The Bears, they're looking at Indiana. If everything continues as it's going to go, they're planning to move to Indiana. And in my lifetime, I'm only 22. And it is going to be so strange to see a team as iconic as the Chicago Bears are to be moving to a different place. It's so strange to be thinking about then. I think obviously right now, with the start of the season, they haven't really said anything, so I am assuming that if they're moving, they're going to be playing in Arlington this year and then moving the next year. They haven't really given any specifics, or at least I haven't found any specifics. And if you guys are in the comments, you guys can absolutely send me information that you guys hear, and I will react to it. But it's going to be really interesting. It's going to be really, really interesting to see how it's going to go. And even someone even said, sorry, if I want to make sure that I get it correct, that the CEO of the Bears, he said, quote, "We don't even have an offer from the state of Illinois." So I think that is just intriguing to me. That I think the Chicago Bears, especially now that the Bears are doing really well, you absolutely have your franchise quarterback in Caleb Williams. It's so strange to me that now is the time that they choose to not keep the Bears here. Maybe at like few years ago when they weren't doing well, that maybe the city of Chicago and the state of Illinois would be like, maybe it's more cost than what it's worth. But now that they're doing well, it's just so weird to me that now they're choosing to move and kind of force the Bears out, as if it would appear as if going off of the quotes in the ESPN articles. It's just so strange, and I'm really curious to stay on top of this and continue to see what the Bears are going to choose to do. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Radio Check. If you guys enjoyed this, be sure to go ahead and subscribe to the channel so you guys get notified of every single time that Radio Check comes out. And check out that video right there. That is a video YouTube recommends for you. So if you want to get more racing or sports enjoyment, you guys can go ahead and watch more there.